If you want to understand whether someone truly loves you, you must look beyond affection. Love does not always look like warmth. It does not always sound like kindness. Sometimes it appears quietly in restraint, in the willingness to let you be. Carl Jung believed love reveals itself not in idealization, but in confrontation with the other and with the self. Most people confuse projection with love. They attach their unmet needs to another and call it intimacy. They imagine a savior or a reflection of their desires, then bind themselves to that image. As long as the illusion holds, they believe they've found connection. But Jung warned that these fantasies collapse under the weight of reality. The moment a person stops conforming to the internal script we've written for them, we often call it betrayal. In truth, it is simply the appearance of who they really are. Love begins where projection ends. When the fantasy shatters and the real person emerges, the response tells you everything. Do they still choose you once your image stops serving their needs? Do they tolerate ambiguity, contradiction, the shadow within you that doesn't fit the part they hope you play? If so, you are beginning to see something genuine. Jung's work makes it clear that true love is rooted in psychological maturity. It is not about fusion or completion. It is about recognition. Two individuals whole in themselves, standing face to face without the need to possess or repair one another. If someone truly loves you, they do not look to you for salvation. They have already begun to save themselves. They will not require you to remain small, to soothe their own insecurities. They will not punish your growth or recoil when you evolve in ways they don't understand. Love does not resist change. It adapts. It stretches to make space for new layers of self as they unfold. Anyone who claims to love you but only on the condition that you do not transform is not responding to you at all. They are responding to the safety of the familiar. A person who loves you deeply does not cling to your comfort. They encourage your confrontation with what is difficult, even when it threatens the balance between you, because they are not protecting the relationship. They are protecting your becoming. Jung referred to this process as individuation, the journey of becoming one's true self. And no genuine love can exist without it. A relationship that is threatened by honesty was never based in reality to begin with. If someone truly loves you, they do not retreat when you reveal something raw. They remain steady when your history rises to the surface, when your defenses break down, when your emotions no longer seem logical. They do not fix you. They do not flee. They stay in contact with what is real because they are not afraid of what is unfinished in you. They have made peace with what is unfinished in themselves. Jung understood that intimacy often activates the shadow. Love draws out the unconscious. It exposes old wounds. It surfaces fears we thought we had buried. Most people respond by projecting these fears onto their partner, blaming them for the internal dissonance. But someone who has done the work, who has sat with their own darkness, will recognize the process for what it is. They will not make your pain about them. They will not need to dominate the moment to reestablish control. They will hold space without demanding resolution. They do not seek perfection. They do not demand alignment in all things. They are not in search of agreement so much as understanding. And when disagreement arises, they do not turn conflict into a question of love. They do not weaponize silence. They do not make withdrawal a form of punishment. Instead, they remain present, even when it would be easier to disengage, because presence, to someone who truly loves, is not conditional on comfort. There is no ideal relationship. There is only the degree to which both people are willing to face what is unconscious in themselves and each other. To love is to be confronted by the unpredictable, to remain in contact with another person's complexity without reducing them to what is manageable or known. A person who truly loves you does not flatten you into a version they prefer. They tolerate the full reality of your being. And not only tolerate it, they engage with it. Love, as Jung understood it, is not harmony without effort. It is not ease without depth. It is a daily discipline of staying conscious in the presence of another. The person who truly loves you will sometimes misunderstand you. They will sometimes fail, but they will not collapse into defensiveness or abandon the work. They will return, not with promises, but with attention. They will ask to understand, not to agree, but to witness. If you want to know whether someone truly loves you, do not listen to what they say. Watch what they do when you are no longer useful to their narrative. Do they retreat when your vulnerability disrupts their comfort? Or do they remain engaged even when there is nothing for them to gain? Genuine love is marked by consistency, not intensity. Most people confuse passion for depth, but what matters is not how brightly someone burns in beginning. It is whether they stay lit when everything goes dim. Real love is revealed in small moments, in how someone listens when you're struggling to speak, in how they adjust when you are not performing, in how they respond to your silence, not your spotlight. It is easy to love someone when they are shining. It is harder when they are in collapse. But if someone has done the work within themselves, if they have faced their fears, their shame, their longing control, they will meet your collapse with steadiness, not retreat. You will not have to audition for their care. You will not have to justify your suffering. They will not demand that you explain your pain in ways that make sense to them. They will simply stay close enough to remain in relationship, but distant enough to give you space, because they trust you to reassemble yourself. And they do not need to rush that process to reduce their own discomfort. This is not what most people think of as love, but it is what Jung called the moral obligation of relationship, to remain conscious, even in the face of uncertainty, to refuse the easy route of projection, control, and withdrawal, to stand when it would be easier to run, not because of fear, but because they see you not just who you are today, but the person you are becoming. They love that person, too, even before you can see them. You don't need to be told you're loved to know it. You can feel it in the way a person interacts with your absence. Not the version of you that's near and convenient, but the version of you that exists beyond their immediate grasp. When you're distant, confused, difficult to understand. If their respect for you does not diminish when you're no longer gratifying, that is the measure. Love, in its mature form, is quiet. It is defined not by the declarations we expect, but by the consistency we overlook. It's not preoccupied with recognition. It does not advertise itself. Jung saw this quietness as a mark of wholeness. The person who has made peace with themselves does not require loud displays. They are not driven to claim what they already feel secure in. The ego wants possession. It wants control because it fears abandonment. But the individual who has faced the source of that fear, who has moved through their inner fragmentation, no longer needs to dominate or be dominated. Love becomes a place of encounter, not conquest. If they truly love you, they won't demand to be understood at all times. They will understand that the psyche is complex and ever-changing. Jung called a human being a multiplicity, a constellation of parts, drives, archetypes. One cannot always be coherent, even to oneself. Expecting another to always be emotionally legible is a subtle form of control. The one who truly loves you doesn't need you to be simple. They've encountered enough complexity in their own mind to make room for yours. There's a kind of dignity in that restraint, in not reacting immediately when misunderstood, in asking for clarification rather than drawing conclusions, in allowing the moment to unfold rather than interrupting it with demand. These are not grand romantic gestures. They are indicators of psychological depth. The person who loves you will recognize the value of your boundaries. They won't press against them just to test their own power. They won't confuse closeness with access. They will understand that real intimacy is built on consent, on the freedom to choose presence again and again, not on emotional obligation. Jung taught that the greatest act of love is to support another person's individuation. That means encouraging their autonomy, even when it creates distance, even when their growth shifts the dynamic. The ego resists this. It wants stasis. It wants guarantees. But the soul requires movement. The one who loves you from the soul does not resist that movement. They remain with you even when the shape of your connection changes. If they love you, they will not idealize you. They will see your contradictions and still remain in contact. They will not demand you resolve your flaws to make them feel secure. They will learn to relate to your shadow, just as they relate to their own. That familiarity with the unconscious is what allows depth to emerge in a relationship. Without shadow work, there is no intimacy, only performance. Without psychological honesty, love becomes theater. But when two people have done their inner work, when they no longer need to hide their vulnerability, something authentic begins to take root. You can speak plainly. You can sit in silence without suspicion. You can disagree without fear of retribution. The space becomes strong enough to hold discomfort. The one who loves you will not collapse into despair when you struggle. They won't pathologize your sadness or try to rush you out of it. They'll sit with it because they know what it means to be visited by something you can't name. They won't turn away from your difficulty. They won't turn it into a problem to solve. They will treat it as a part of your becoming. There is no formula to determine whether love is real, but there are clues if you know how to look. Jung believed that love reveals a condition of the unconscious. The more fragmented and reactive a person is, the more their love is likely to be unstable, dependent, conditional. The more integrated a person is, the more stable their capacity for connection becomes. Look at how they respond when things don't go their way, when their preferences aren't met, when you assert your needs. Do they punish you with withdrawal? Do they become passive-aggressive? Or do they hold the tension and continue to relate? These moments will tell you far more than their compliments. If someone truly loves you, they will not diminish when your attention is elsewhere. They will not compete with your solitude. They will not ask you to choose between them and your inner life. Jung saw solitude as a necessary condition for self-realization. Anyone who interrupts it without necessity, who perceives as a threat, is projecting their fear of abandonment. The one who loves you will not see your aloneness as rejection. They will recognize it as something sacred. They won't require constant emotional proof to trust a bond. They won't push you into caretaking their insecurities. They will take responsibility for their inner world because they have developed a relationship with themselves that does not collapse in the presence of ambiguity. To love someone is not to stabilize them emotionally. It is to walk beside them as they encounter their instability and grow through it. It is to remain present without making their process about you. That presence, grounded, contained, honest, is a foundation of real partnership. Jung believed that the goal of life is not happiness, but wholeness. The same is true in love. You don't find happiness in another person. You find reflection. You find edges. You find material for growth. Love will show you your shadow in a way nothing else can. It will trigger ancient fears and unhealed wounds. But if the person facing you does not recoil, if they do not shame your past or reject your pain, then you are in the presence of something profound. They won't say the right things all the time. They won't make it effortless. But they will stay close enough for contact and spacious enough for you to breathe. They will not expect you to be their mirror, nor will they ask you to carry their unlived life. They will take responsibility for their path, and they will respect yours. You will know they love you by what they do when no one is watching. Not when they are praised for being caring, but when they act in quiet alignment with your well-being. They will defend your name when you're not present. They will correct themselves when they are wrong. Not because you asked them to, but because they have an inner standard they live by. You will feel safer in their company than in their words. You will not have to perform. You will not have to suppress. You will simply return to yourself more easily in their presence. That is what Jung called a transformative relationship. Not one that fills your emptiness, but one that mirrors your totality. There's a way love expands you, not in euphoric bursts, but in grounded clarity, not in poetic tension, but in silent recognition. The person who loves you truly will not need to be convinced of your worth. They will see it, even when you forget, even when you fall short, and their love will not waver in proportion to your excellence. It will remain because it is rooted in something deeper than performance. It is rooted in their own integration. The final clue is the most difficult to perceive. It is how they respond to your becoming. Most people can love who you were or who you are now, but shrink in the presence of who you are becoming. Growth destabilizes relationships built on fixed identity. The one who loves you will not cling to a past version of you because it made them comfortable. They will adjust. They will recalibrate. And they will remain committed to discovering you again and again. Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Love is not static. It is an alchemical process. It burns away illusions. It exposes fractures. It dissolves idealizations. What remains is what is real. When someone truly loves you, their love does not resist your transformation. It adapts to it. It is not held together by nostalgia, nor is it threatened by change. It stays in contact with the core of who you are, even as that core continues to evolve. That is how you know. Love that endures your becoming is love that belongs to the soul. And it asks nothing more than this, that you meet it fully with the same depth and honesty it offers you.